Hey guys, it's Penelope in London and it's the Capricorn full moon, and I'm going to run through with you some of the definitions of it and what it means, and maybe a few of the upcoming transits that are coming up, which are quite interesting for us. We've got the North Node that's going to be meeting with Uranus and also Mars at the end of July. So let's look at this chart here. Just get my pointer and spotlight. And what you can see, I'll make sure you're seeing the same thing as me. Let me see, new share. Okay, so what we have is that this is Aries at the beginning of the chart, because we're doing it, looking at it from this angle, rather than if I was doing it from London, then the rising sign would be different, but this is for the collective. What we have is that you can see that the moon is opposite the sun here at 21 degrees. So it's at 21, 20, 21, 21. You can see the sun and the moon. And then we have on top of that, we've got the moon, which is linking in there with Pluto. And this links back to 2020 lockdowns and, you know, Capricorn. And we can see it's very close. It's in orb there. At 21 degrees, it's only 5 degrees, 21 to 22, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 degrees. And they can, you know, that is a conjunction. And then we have, if we look, Saturn is in the sign of Aquarius and it's retrograde at the moment. Neptune is also retrograde, which will be uncovering a lot. It'll be lifting the veil. This is what it does. It dissolves illusions, and it will be retrograde for months to come. We've got Jupiter at 8 degrees of Aries, and it's moving into Chiron, but I think that's going to go retrograde. I haven't checked the date with that. I'll have to double check that. Mars is moving in onto the sign in Taurus, onto Uranus, and then also the North Node is a degree away, you can see here. And the nodes move this way around the chart, and all of the other planets go this way around the chart. And then we've got Venus, they're all in Taurus. We've got Venus at 24 degrees of Gemini. So that will be moving into the sign of Cancer in a week or so, or less. We can check that on the solar fire. This is Black Moon Lilith. I won't talk about that. Then we've got the Sun is conjunct Mercury. And then the South Node, you can see, is up there in Scorpio, and they're always opposite. The South Node is the past, and then the North Node is the future. So this combination here is quite interesting of what that's going on for humanity. This has not happened apparently for a few, I think, of over 1,000 years. I can't remember I know it sounds so full on there, but that Mercury, the Uranus in Taurus and the North Node in Taurus together has not happened for a long, long time, but I haven't got the date in front of me. What you would do is that with a full moon or new moon, you can look at your own chart, and I'm going to show you how this is going to affect my chart so that you understand when you're looking at your own chart. If you go to horoscopes.astro-seek.com, you can actually do your own free horoscope here. It's really useful to know. And then you can also look at, you know, the definitions. What I've got here is that this is the full moon chart, and you can see that we'll say with a new moon, the moon is on top of the sun, and then with a full moon, the moon and the sun are opposite. And a full moon is the culmination, and a new moon is where we plant new seeds. It goes dark and then it wanes. Now it's going to wane, and then it will go into a new moon in a couple of weeks. What we have is that the moon, then the keywords are, it's our ancestral inheritance, it's about our belonging, it's our maternal instincts, it's our memory, it's our moods, and it's the mother aspect, Mother Earth as well, the nourishment, it's nurturing, it's our emotions, it's the cycles. Moon is the, you know, moves, it's incredible actually. I'm going to go off here a bit, but if you did see the first photographs that came back from the James Webb telescope yesterday. If you've not looked at that or you don't know what that's about, the James Webb telescope, I think it replaced the Hubble, and it went out on Christmas Day and it sent back some images. Some images came back yesterday, or public images came back. So that was very fascinating. So do Google that if you don't know what it's about, because we're seeing things that we've never seen before, which is beautiful. The moon, again, it's emotional response. It's the family, and family, of course, doesn't have to be blood. It can be family that we've created ourselves. It's our feelings. It's the feminine side of ourselves. It's food, and of course the masculine, the male and feminine, we're not separate. We've got both inside of us. It's the fluctuations, it's our subconscious, and it's our survival instincts. So you know, it's what we basically, when we're conditioned, we're conditioned as, sorry, I'll show you the chart. We're conditioned as kids and by society, and we will then play out what makes us feel safe and what our belief systems are, what, you know, our religion and all sorts of things. So there's a lot of subconscious stuff there. There's our survival instincts. We do know that it affects the tides on the earth, and it's also an unconscious response, and it's our home. It's the deepest roots as well. So whatever sign your moon is in, my moon is in Gemini. I don't know, you know, if you want to tell me where your moon is below the video, you can do that. But and also for my solar return, if you don't know what a solar return is, you can look a year on your birthday, the way the planets fall on that day at a particular time. You would run a solar return chart, and then you'd be able to see your year ahead. So my year ahead, my moon is actually in Aquarius, so I am a little bit removed from my emotions this year, which is good for me because it means that I get to look at other aspects, because the Gemini aspect of my moon means that, you know, I can be highly strung and that I'm bouncing around, and it's just, it's a little bit, it's almost a bit stabilizing for me. It's quite interesting for me to have this Aquarius moon for the year ahead. The moon is also to do with our memory. It's our imagination. It's where we can feel sensitive, and it's where we want to create inner contentment. And when it's not, you know, the other side to it is that we can be a bit irrational, we can be oversensitive, we can be discontented, and we can feel insecure as well. So if you can see here, and we've got Chiron also, which is this, I don't know what this is going to expand here, but Chiron is to do with our wound. Let's run through this briefly. So the moon is our emotions. Pluto is where we have transformation, and it's also birth, death, transformation. Saturn is restriction. I'm doing this very briefly. Saturn is restriction, but it's also teacher. And we're all going through stages of learning and being taught and learning and gaining wisdom. That's the nature of life. Saturn. Neptune is to do beyond the five senses. It's our sleep time. It's melatonin. I do believe when I fall, I don't see sleep as separate to being awake. It's like a journey, life. And I'm very interested in my sleep time because I dream a lot. I'm very active in dreams. So to me, when I go to sleep, it's, you know, I'd like to know what it's going to throw up for me. And I take it, you know, I pay attention to my dreams because it's working something out. Jupiter is to do with spirituality. It's to do with education. It's to do with, it's where we can be grandiose, but it's also, and dogmatic, but it's also where we can, you know, do things overseas, and it's higher education and stuff. The wound is Chiron. We've got Mars is our direction, our libido, not sexual libido as such, but our libido of wanting something. And it can also be compulsive and impulsive, more impulsive, not compulsive, impulses where we want to do something or we fire off, you know, it's the warrior, it's the fighter, keeps us alive as well, you know, with our dreams. In part, I'd say Uranus is breaking free of limitations, and also it can be quite shocking as well. The North Node is our life path, and the South Node is what we're integrating. It's an integration. It's not leaving something behind, it's integrating, because whatever's from the past is useful to our now because it's brought us to this point. The Venus is to do with our inner needs, particularly in evolutionary astrology, our inner needs, and it's ruled by Taurus in that respect. We've got Mercury, which is communication and short journeys and travels, and it's the fastest planet round the sun, 88 days. The sun is who we are, it's where we shine. So now I'm going to show you how this has affected my chart. And let's see if I go here, and I'm going to make sure I'm sharing the right page again. Okay, so this is the full moon time. It was at 1937 in UK time, 5 hours behind in New York and 8 hours behind that time in California, and ahead if you're in Australia. So on the inside, you can see this is my natal chart. And then on the outside, you can see where the transits are. So interestingly, I've got that South Node at the moment. South Node is up. Let's see. The North Node is at 25 degrees. So this South Node at the moment is on my South Node, my natal South Node, and then it's moving on to my Neptune. So this is a big, a nodal return. Big changes for me. It's a lot of maturity coming in and a lot of releasing of releasing but integrating stuff. And you can see that that South Node is opposite all of my planets here. The Mars and Mercury and my Sun is at 0 degrees, so that can be poured in there, and the node there. And we also have that's happened for me in my second house. You can see here that full moon is in my second house, which is my inner needs and my resources. And then we've got that moon, so you can do this with your own chart if you want to do this on horoscopes.astro.seek.com. So what you do is, I'm scrolling down, I'm looking at the moon. The moon is sextile to Neptune for me. The moon is square to Venus. The moon is trine Mercury. The sun is trine Neptune. The sun is square Venus, and the sun is sextile Mercury. And then if you scroll down again, it goes further. The moon is trine to my MC, which is brilliant. The moon is semi-sextile to Lilith, which I like. Sun is biquintal, part of fortune. I won't go into what that is. And then the sun is sextile to my MC. So this is a nice moon for me. So you can see that moon is hitting my MC up here, and then it's hitting other planets. So it's very fascinating how astrology works and how individual it is to us, because if you look at my rising sign is 27 degrees of Scorpio. And so for each of us, it's going to be different. Where it falls, the meaning, and how it affects our lives, because it will be dependent on the houses it's in. You can do different types of charts. You can do whole house as well. If I used whole house, that would probably send it into my third house. So you can sort of look at a chart in many different ways. You don't have to, nothing has to be written in stone. The whole point of a chart is to get to a point of understanding ourselves. It's to know ourselves. This is what the point of this is. You can see here, this is Astro.com. This is another site which I use when I'm doing readings, so that it simplifies for people. And I'm just going to make sure I'm sharing the right page again. Okay, so you can see this is my natal chart, and then on the outside we've got the planets. I find this easier to view rather than the Astro Seek. It's a bit easier to figure out what's going on, and then you've got PDF charts here that you can pull up as well. You can pull up different things, so additional tables, which is brilliant. So you can get an account with this as well and have your own chart on here and look. So you can see that more clearly that my sixth house has got the Mercury, Mars, and the North Node. And where these transits are, the Uranus is moving through my sixth house, and then Mars is going into my sixth. So then I'm coming up for a Mars return, which happens about every 2 years, unless it goes retrograde, and then it's a bit longer because it goes retrograde every 2 years. So now Saturn, you can see, is on top of my Lilith here. You can see that going on there, true Lilith, and then it's squaring to, so there's a bit of struggle for me, but it's not massive in the sense that the more wisdom we gain, the planets aren't really doing anything to us. The planets are just telling us what's going on and possibly what's going on in our psyche. So the planets are not doing anything. All over the world, people, if we, to speak to anyone, if I speak to somebody in another country and we're discussing Pluto and they're an astrologer, we all understand what Pluto means. It's like reading music. Once you understand the certain, the certain things about music, then you can read music. And the same is with the chart. It's not as complex as it seems, but it takes time to learn what things mean, like the ascendant, the houses, the aspects, the way the planets are speaking to each other. And then also the transits, and that can be tricky to learn. I've still got to look up, even after years of doing this, I've still got to look up sometimes, like I just did, what is the moon doing to my chart? The more you look, the more you naturally will say, oh, my moon is doing that. The eyes move quicker over the chart, because of the knowledge that we gain. So now I'm going to go to the solar fire, which is brilliant. And if we let's look at this moon a bit more. I'm going to come out of spotlight, go back in, make sure I'm sharing the right page. So I hope everybody's okay out there. And we've got some big things coming up, possibly around September time. We need to be looking at foods, this whole Uranian thing in Taurus. The last time that was there was about, if I do this actually, if we go back to 1938, if you see that's 18 degrees, that Uranus is 18 degrees of Taurus. So if I go back to 13th of July, 1938, now remember, this is wartime, yeah? And it's in 1938, which is 2022 minus 1938, it's 84 years ago. It was at 17 degrees and we were in war time at that time. And as a result of that, there were food restrictions and stuff like that. So we're sort of seeing a similar pattern. It won't be the same. The interesting thing is that the South Node was actually on moving into towards Uranus at that time. And this time it's the North Node. So we're breaking free of limitations and there's stuff coming out. We're in a different time period. But we do know as well that if we go back now to 2022, bit of interesting information there for you. So, and Uranus takes 84 years to move around the chart. And we're going through war, as not war, but there is war, spiritual war or whatever war you want to call it. There's something going on that's being restricting. At the moment, I cannot, if I wanted to fly to the USA, for instance, I cannot go there unless I've been fully injected, and which it's not the thing I've done for myself because for my own personal reasons, but you would have people that from the USA can come here. I so believe that that's the case, but it's interesting, different countries. So if you're not, if you had no idea and you hadn't wanted to travel, for instance, to the USA, you may not even be aware that that's the case. And you can see how in that awareness, one can see how one is being restricted. One's freedoms and rights are being restricted, even though, but you wouldn't know unless you know. So that's worth knowing. And I don't know how long that's going to be held in place, but we will have to wait and see. But it does seem a bit interesting the way things are working out. So if we come back to this chart today, and although it does say 1837 up here, this is a UK chart, this is universal time, and we're in British summertime at the moment, so that would be at actually 1937 would have been the full moon in the UK. Then we've got Capricorn keywords, and take in mind that we've got the Pluto conjunct Capricorn up there. Pluto conjunct, not Capricorn, Pluto in Capricorn conjunct the moon. Now, this Capricorn, the keywords are social position, it's authority, it's discipline, it's totalitarian, and it's punishment, it's judgment, and it's the judge, it's maturity, it's old age, and it's repression, and oppression, conformity, it's isolation, and it's grief. You know, a lot of people have grief that then, because of the way society works, it means that we're not able to express our grief fully. You know, there's been a lot of losses, there's a lot of death going on at the moment as well, and not just in wars, but you know, in health and other matters. And it can be very difficult for people that society sort of shuns, not all over the world, depends on the, you know, the location we're born into, but you know, some countries are better at dealing with grief than other countries because of their spiritual or religious beliefs. It's grief is taken as not as something being wrong with you, whereas you know, in certain countries people can say, oh, you know, well, so and so, you should be over that by now, which is not. We're each individuals, and it takes time to process information. This Capricorn also is, it can be depression, it can be where we're burdened, it can be a fall from grace. So that Pluto, 27 degrees, is actually also the USA is having the Pluto return. So this is in alignment with where it is now, is where it was when the USA was formed in 1776, July 4th, 1776. So it's a dismantling to clean the runway, so to speak, for new things to come. But in that, there's a lot of death, but there's rebirth. So death doesn't have to be literal. It's very interesting how, because it's transformation as well. If we look at the butterfly, how it goes into metamorphosis and it becomes a butterfly, from a caterpillar to a butterfly, it completely transforms, it becomes something else. It's not just, you know, it's not only changing, it's changing completely, but it still is at its source what it originally was. It's an integration of features, or you know, the biology of what it is, but you wouldn't, you know, it's a complete metamorphosis. We've also got here, it's conditioning by family or society, that Capricorn Pluto, and it's also man-made law, it's ancestral, it's tradition, it can be self-defeat and futility, it's boundaries, because we got Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and that will be there until 2024, and Pluto will move into Aquarius, then it will move slightly back out again, and then it will continue when it finally moves in 2024 to permanently after it's retrograde. It will then stay there for 20 years until 2044. So we've got a lot of work on our hands, a lot of changes. I think the most important thing right now is to really look at food and resources, because this is speaking about food and resources, and also our financial resources, because Venus is in Taurus, and Taurus holds the second house, which is to do with our needs as well, not just inner needs. We need money, you know, money is useful tool, it flows, and there's restrictions going on, and things, governments are looking at new ways of dealing with money. There's the central bank digital coin, CBDC, central bank CBDC digital coin. If you haven't looked at what's going on, you know, with the Bitcoin thing and all of that, there are people that run money, and it's history, you know, hundreds of years ago. I haven't got the date in front of me, but people used to exchange salt. Salt used to be a form of money, and then the gold coin was in Roman times, was invented, and money has been, you know, it's been that would have been bartering. You would have bartered. In a way, I'm seeing that a bit going on, that people can barter at this time, but there's also, with inflation and prices are going up, like for instance, I have an electricity bill which I pay £50 a month. So if you're in the USA, that would maybe be £70 or $70, $75 as an example, and that's just gone up £300 a year, which is about just maybe $450. It's, you know, so people then have to find that money. But then I've noticed that where people are struggling with money, then the governments are subsidizing people. So if governments then subsidize people, and you're subsidized in order to pay bills, then it could be that you have restrictions put upon you because, and then also we got the resources thing going on in Denmark. The farmers are not very happy with regard to the changes of law that are being made. A lot of people don't understand what's going on with that, with nitrates and food. So nitrates and fertilizer, and I have seen some people, maybe because they don't understand or realize that this is not to do with the war so much that's been taking place, but more to do with laws being brought in that mean that nitrates and certain things, and the 2030 campaign that's going on, which some of you may be aware of or not, the World Economic Forum have got an idea of how a reshuffling of the world. So we need to research these things to understand. I've bought in some foods to to look after myself in the event that foods that will that are canned. I don't eat canned foods normally, but I've bought in some organic stuff and some grains, and also that prices are going up, so it just makes sense to have food that's very basic and has longevity, that's there should there be a break in supplies, as an example. And it really does depend on who you're following and what you're following. If you're following regular news, then you're not going to be getting the same information. Maybe you're going to get information that's very different to you. It may not be, it depends, but I think generally people that follow astrology are a bit more in the know of what's taking place. But we have to be self-sufficient, and what will we do if there's no electricity? So we have to look around us and think, well, have I got enough food for a couple of months if there was a break in the chain of supplies? Or have I, how would I keep warm if there's no electricity, as an example? Do I have a torch if there's electricity cuts? Do I have candles in my house? We need to think about these things. We don't know how far it's going to go. It could be geographical, but at the moment, the farmers in Denmark are really not happy, or Netherlands rather. They're not, I don't know if I've got Denmark right, but the Netherlands are, they're basically, they've been causing road blockades because they're not happy with decisions that have been taken. And I could run much deeper into this, but I'm going to leave it there. And then not the chart, but just that particular subject. So if we look at what does Pluto, the sun is also opposition to Pluto at this time. So the sun is our vitality, and Pluto is about its transformation, for better or worse, transformation, we transforming. So when it's opposite, there's a light shining on deeper issues of the collective and potential conflicts around renewal as well, renewal and healing. How are we going to heal and renew what needs to be renewed? And then the struggles can lead to personal empowerment, because, if we learn to understand our difficulties and how to work things out, and it depends how we're going to channel the energy. If we look at the moon in conjunct Pluto, because the moon will conjunct, and if we take the time now, it's probably conjunct right now as I'm speaking. If we look, actually, it is 23 here. Let's just look at the time here. So 23:06. Let's see where that moon is right now. Yeah, it's literally moving right on in. So that Pluto moon, it symbolizes instinctive, it's our awareness. And again, Pluto is transformation. And the moon conjunct, there's a fusion, it's emotional, and it's about deep regeneration. It's where we're regenerating, and we can tune in deeply into our feelings and our needs. And also it's where we can be compulsive in our compulsions, and it's where things are normally hidden, better off hidden. And it's a very deep depth to our feelings is likely, and it's like razor sharp insight into the motivations of others. So because the moon, it's very powerful emotional stuff, so we can sort of see what's going on a collective. But again, wherever it is in our own chart, we might see that regarding, for me, it's in my second house of my values and my needs, my inner needs. So for you, if it's in your 3rd house, it's about communication. If it's in your 4th house, it's about home and the family, that moon, that's what I'm referring to. If it's in your 8th house, it's about joint resources. If it's in your 12th house, it's, with what's hidden, it's your spiritual side. So, and it's beautiful looking at astrology, because we're basically learning to know ourselves. More than a predictive tool, which it can be used for, to understand ourselves. It's very deep in looking at, the whys, why we are the way we are. Brilliant astrologer I know called Simon Forster mentioned something that keeps ringing with me. What, a really good thing to ask yourself at this time, with the changes that are being made, and also that Pluto will be moving into Aquarius in the coming year or so, is what does freedom mean to me? Ask yourself that question. So it's going to be different for everyone. Like, what freedom means to me will mean something different to you. My values have completely been changed over the years. It used to be success and business, and as I've got wisdom and I've understood myself and understood time and understood the value of life, and also as you get older, you see that you've got less time. So depending on where we're at on our life journey, and not just to do with age, but to do with our soul desires, we're going to value different things. For some people, it may be a plot of land where they can grow their own vegetables. For some people, it will be helping people through trauma. For some people, it will be the desire to travel and be out of the system. And for some people, it will be being safe and remaining in the system. So, everybody's going to be doing their own thing. And this is why there's a big divide and shattering of, fracturing of friendships and all sorts of things at the moment, because people are having to think for themselves and think about how are they going to look after themselves. So it's sort of moving away from the codependency into being more self-sufficient as well. That would be also that node in Taurus, and also that here we've got the Uranian energy as well. And then the other thing is we can move away, which is very good. This is Pete Walker with complex PTSD work. We can move away from all or nothing thinking, because if we think anybody or anything is all or nothing, and even with healing or with having enough resources and whatever, we can sort of miss the mark if we go all or nothing. If we think a particular, I'm not into politics on any level, but if we think a particular politician is all or nothing, or we think that a particular person is all or nothing, then we're setting ourselves up, because nobody is all or nothing, and ultimately we are on our own personal individuation soul journey, and it is different for everybody as we go through and do our own inner work. The other thing is that I'll tell you what else is going on here. Let's see, the Venus square Neptune, which is quite strong at the moment, is for the planet. Venus is, it is love and beauty as well. And it is, Venus is love, beauty, and it's also our inner needs. And it's also in Taurus, and it's also to do with money as well. And Neptune, it can also be about inspiration and faith. And where we have this connection, where it's in, if you look at Neptune here and Venus is there, you can see that's 25 degrees and that's 25 there. That's a square. And we can see that that's in Gemini, this is communication, and in Pisces, it's spiritualized. It's, it is that thing where Neptune in Pisces, it's way out there. So it's where idealized ideas are more than possible could lead to difficulties. So if we have idealized ideas about things, thankfully, Venus moves quite quickly. So if we take this days ahead, Venus, watch here. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then Venus on the 18th of July is going to be in the sign of Cancer. And then you can see here that node is moving 19, it's a couple of degrees away. It'll go 20 and then it will go 19. Watch the north node actually here. If I go weeks ahead, so that north node is going to go 1, 18, and then it's 18. You can see here, you've got the north node, you've got Mars. That's on the end of July. So I won't talk about that right now. I have to do some more studying around that and share that information. And that's the 1st of August up here. So if you look at, say, definitely on the end of the month, that's what's going on there. And then if we look at today's chart again, although this isn't today's chart, that's the 1st of August up there, the sun is sextile to Uranus, the moon is sextile to Neptune, Mercury is sextile to Uranus. So there's some nice things going on here. Mercury is square Chiron. So if we go back to 1 week, 2 weeks, this is the 13th. So if we look at the Mercury is here, and Mercury is moving on in, and remember Mercury it's going to be, it's a square, it's moving on in. So Mercury is our communication, the Chiron, the wound, and also to do with our healing and acknowledgement of I have a wound, and then it's concealed, and then it's trauma, and how am I going to sort this out? So when Mercury is in that square to Chiron, it may be where we have an ability to uncover, the things that we've not been aware of, because we're continuously becoming conscious of something. It's quite incredible how things come out of the blue, even in our sleep time. So this is why if you are into dream time, as Carl Gustav Jung talked a lot about dreams. That was the main bulk of his work. So this is about making us more conscious, which can, the thing that I'm learning of late, and it's a really tough word for people that have been through heavy duty trauma or loss or betrayal, is acceptance. So I would never tell somebody personally to either forgive or to, like you just have to accept it, or you just got to forgive, or you just got to let it go, because all of those things are not taking a person into account. We've each got to come to our own conclusions about these things. And if we have friends, and if we say that to people, you've got to let it go, and you've got to learn to forgive, and you've got to, there's an arrogance about it. It's not helpful. It's a lot of spirituality. I think 2012, the movie The Secret, you just be grateful, and you just, think of unicorns and stuff like that. That is not realistic. We're human beings, we're emotional, we see things that trigger us, that's not clear in our conscious why. We have dreams, we have nightmares, we have concerns, money, health. So we have a lot to sort out, and when we know what we value, we can begin to, put things in order. So it's a very useful thing to do. If you want to do some work around your values with me, then you can book a session with me. The link will be below the video, to either look at your chart or look at your values or look at trauma, and to sort of understand yourself more, to have a conversation around that in order to put some clarity in there so that you can step into the future as we go through these really tricky times. So I'm going to leave it there for today. I hope that was useful. Before I go, we'll just see, is there anything else there? So Sun conjunct Mercury. Mercury is moving into the Sun. The Sun is trying to Neptune. So if we look at Neptune up here, the Sun again is going to be trining, it's going on into that. And then the Sun is opposing Pluto. So the Sun is again moving into the opposition with Pluto. So the Sun opposition Pluto is where we do know that it's going to shine. There's going to be conflicts, potential conflicts surrounding healing, and how we're sorting things out collectively. Fascinating. So that's it for today. Catch you later. Thanks for watching.